Welcome back, everybody. You got Larry here. Sobriety on two wheels. I'm back on the Indian. Got done with the run for the sun. That was a long ride on this girl, and now I can order some oil for her to do the break-in change. Kind of excited about that. Then I can open her up a little more, like this. Oh yeah. Let's do a little recap. Step one, admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step two, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step three, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Step four, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step five, admitted to God, ourselves, God, and another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. And here we are at step six. Brain fart, brain fart, brain fart. Then we get past the sandy corner. Step six, we're entirely ready to ask God to remove these defects of character. Let me clean that up. Step six, we're entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. What does that mean, entirely ready? That's probably the most important part of that sentence. Well, since we went through the process of telling another human being and God the exact nature of our wrongs, going through our character defects, realizing that battle that we fight every day, now it's time that we realize the solution for it. And it starts with God. And we need to be entirely ready before we take the next step, step seven, which will be the act of asking. But that's not this video, that's next video. I took a note down. I'm gonna look at that. Yeah, they can wait. Is our way of stating that the best possible attitude one can take in order to make a beginning on this lifetime job. That's a pretty good way of putting that. I'm glad they put it in a book. There's actually a lot of good books out there that if you're interested in, you should check out. I got that out of 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. I like that because it simplifies it. For me, unfortunately, I'm not a good reader. And then I also saw this here. So the goal of being entirely ready to ask God to remove these defects of character. One thing I had to realize was the word remove in there. I don't think it's fair to ask God to entirely remove our defects of character, because we've gone how many years carrying those around. It's not going to be an overnight deal. but we do need to be 100% ready to ask him to aid us in this. But this chart I found has a pretty good list of some common, let's go right, some common defects of character, and the opposite traits that we're striving for once we complete steps 6 and 7. Egoism we would love to turn into humility. Anxiety and worry, serenity, complacency, let's turn that into action. Denial, how about acceptance? Jealousy turns into trust. Fantasy can turn into reality. Selfishness can turn into service. Resentment can turn into forgiveness. Judgmentalism should turn into tolerance. Despair can turn into hope. Self-hate can turn into self-respect. And loneliness, well, that turns into fellowship. Fellowship, which I think is a very big part of recovery. Without fellowship, what do you got? It was my loneliness that drove me into the bottle. Bottle plural. But yeah, this is step 6 is kind of a gateway step to the really important one in my mind. I mean, I was reading 12 by 12 before I went on this ride, was waiting for the GoPro to charge a little bit, and the writers of that book would disagree with me about being a gateway, and it is very important. I just can't keep everything they wrote about it inside my head, so all I can tell you guys is how I feel about it, and hopefully by now you can tell how passionate I am about the steps and how they can work in our lives. But that's kind of all I got for this one. I'll try to be a little more prepared for the next one. But it's kind of like I said before. Let's try to work on this life, because it can be a pretty cool one.